This week on The Grid, we have landscape and cityscape photographer Serge Ramelli here talking about how to get started making money with your photography and even creating a photo business. And it all starts in just 60 seconds.
The Grid is brought to you by Tamron. Check out their 28 to 75 millimeter f2.8 lens. It's for Sony full frame mirrorless. It's awesome. Go to tamron-usa.com.
And Profoto, the light shaping company. Check out the Profoto B1X, powered all the right places. Go to profoto.com/US.
And Platypod, the tripod alternative that is changing the world. Everybody has a Platypod. You should too. Go to platypod.com.
Well, hey, Grid Nation, how's it going? We got a special guest in this week, Serge Ramelli. How you doing?
Good, Erik. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here because we're going to be talking about something that Serge and I were talking about. One of the things that really a passion of yours is teaching people about photography,
right?
But especially about making money with your photography. That's one thing that we'll share some stories. But before we get into that, cool announcement of you're going to be one of the instructors at Photoshop World West.
Absolutely.
Right?
This is like
in
my
Las Vegas.
Absolutely. Fourth or fifth time I'm doing it. I love Photoshop World. I think it's I started years ago. I think the first time I met you guys was Photoshop World 2010.
Yeah.
And or 2009 or something. It was before we met in Paris.
Yep.
And it was, as a student, it was amazing. I mean, you just go from, I don't think I learned so much in 4 days in my entire life or 3 days. It's it's really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. It's August 21st to 23rd in Vegas, which is really cool because it's Vegas, right?
And I can drive there.
Yeah, and you can drive there. Plus, what's interesting for the people that drive there, we found this out that this is something that's been a lot of people locally have been like, wow, is if you're locally driving to Vegas, the hotel with our hotel rate, you get free parking, which is like unheard of on the Strip anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Free parking.
This is really cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there's Serge right there. So, and you're, what are you teaching at Photoshop World?
So I teach different class on HDR, on black and white, on cityscapes, basically.
Yeah.
Which is basically what I do with all my books and stuff in galleries. Basically I just, I do books about cities and the best goes into galleries and I teach people how to do that.
Yep. There you go. So, as you can see, we know Scott's not here. Scott is actually out on vacation. He's taking vacation,
which
he doesn't do much, but this is well-deserved vacation. He's out. But if you want to check out and hang out with Scott, he has a seminar coming up in Chicago and in Detroit next month. So if you go to kelby1live.com, you can see the dates over there. I believe it is, let me look at it, I don't want to misquote, July 18th and July 17th. You got Livonia and Chicago. He'll be there, so check it out. And then actually, let's see, we got Philadelphia and Boston coming up as well. So if you're in any one of those cities, there you go. You can check it out. It's the Ultimate Photography Crash Course. So you can go there and he will teach you everything. It's like a crash course, and you want to get up to speed with photography in one day. That's where you go to, right there.
Yeah, so I love Scott's class. I've done many, and he's just the best teacher on planet Earth. There's no question.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. What I love about Scott's teaching, and I know that we both, and I know that that's where if we get to your story in the beginning, Scott really breaks it down to telling you the essentials, not hiding anything.
Yeah.
There's no tricks. It's like, here's what the deal is. I'm just going to tell you the straight.
Yeah,
so
100%.
And cool.
And he's like, he explains things like he would do to a friend.
Yep.
He doesn't, over explain things that don't need to be explained, give you information you don't need, which is what you said about the essential.
Yep.
And, it's really practical, and you can, that's what I try to do as a teacher. He was my mentor on that. So.
Yep. So, before we get to that, though, I do want to say later in the show we're going to be giving away 2 prizes. So we've got Platypod Ultra here we'll be giving away.
Which is amazing, which I have in my bag at all time.
All time. And you were just talking about Scott, seeing Scott use this at in Paris.
In Paris, yeah. He was with Mimo Medani, which is, I introduced Mimo to Scott a couple of years ago. And their specialty is to shoot I don't know if you can show this Adobe Spark article he did. What they do is with this, they get very low, and Mimo brings a bottle of water and they make a little puddle, and they use the puddle as a reflection. They shot a photo of the Arc de Triomphe, and I've been shooting the Arc de Triomphe for 15 years, and I was like, this is the best shot I've ever seen. You got to check it out. It's Scott did a whole Adobe Spark article
page. I just got to find it.
And they shot it with this, and it was just crazy. It's just because the low angle with the reflection of the puddle gives you double Arc de Triomphe.
Oh yeah,
that's
here it
the
is,
shot. That's
right
the
here.
shot.
That's it right
I don't know
there.
if you can show it. And so that was made with this, and I always have two on me: the small one and the bigger one, the Ultra and the Mini. I forgot the names.
And because of Mimo, I have learned to always take extra bottles of water with me.
Exactly. And that's just one bottle of water.
Every time you want to make a puddle, you just pour a bottle of water out there, get that camera low enough, and you got a reflection.
Yeah, and well, what he does, he finds a missing cobblestone to make the puddle.
Yep.
You know, a couple of missing cobblestones, and then he pours the water.
Yep.
And then we were in Venice, and he had like a bucket. He was taking water from the Grand Canal and just pouring it in front of my camera, and I was using this. It's amazing.
And speaking of shots of photography shots, we also are going to be giving away a copy of the landscape book, which that's another big thing. You know, Serge, you're into landscapes and cityscapes.
That's
time,
right, both.
So this is a great book if you're wanting to get up to speed on landscape photography. Definitely want to check that out. And we're going to be giving that away later. But hey, so our topic here today, what I really want to dig into is we were talking about this of, you know, I want to take people through your kind of journey with photography to starting to sell prints, and then now where you are today, where you're actually, it's the business of selling photography, the business of photography. So kind of rewinding maybe back to the beginning for people. So, and this hasn't really been a super long journey. You've been about 15 years, right?
Right, 15 years, but like I quit my salesman's job May 2010. So 9 years of just
9 years of serious, but you were in 2004 is kind of where you started out, right? Yeah. And what got you into it? I mean, what was the catalyst? What were your mentors back then? Stuff like that.
So I literally went into photography overnight, and sorry for all the ads. I went into photography overnight, and what I did was that I had a buddy who's my business partner named Kelvin Pimon. He was a designer. And at the time, I was trying to shoot short movies, but back in 2004, it was really hard to shoot short movies because you didn't have DSLRs. There's no way to make videos.
There wasn't a 5D Mark II.
Yeah. So that was 2008, March 2008, when the 5D Mark II came out, which I bought and for
the D90 was before that. That was like the first one where it was like it shot video.
Really? I thought. Yes. Oh, I thought it was a 5D Mark II. That was the first.
No, the D90 and it only shot 720. It was.
Okay,
it was
fine.
not the Mark II.
Anyways, so I was trying to make short movies, didn't work, and then Kelvin shows me Photoshop, and so I was like, oh, I gotta learn Photoshop. So I went into the first bookstore I could find, and I bought 7 books on photography and Photoshop, anything that they had, everything. I went to Erol. Erol is like the biggest library of photographers and scientific kind of library, and there was one book from Scott Kelby. There was the only book I could understand. Literally, I was like, I knew nothing. I didn't know what shutter speed meant, nothing. And I looked at the back, and it says NAPP, and with a photo of Scott. And I Googled NAPP. I became, so NAPP is the old name of Kelby One, National Association of Photoshop Professional. Became a member, started following Scott. And so 6 years later, I met Matt Kloskowski when he came from London. And 7 years later, I met you in Scott. And we've been friends since. And and voila, we have some people joining from Denver, Denmark, and everybody.
Oh yeah, they're all over the world. So at least, is Facebook up and running right now? Is it good? All right, there you go. So Facebook and Instagram are having a field day today. That's for sure.
They're a little sick. I tried to do live this morning, and it was just black. Nobody could hear me. Nobody could see me.
There's some gremlins running through those servers somewhere. But we do have people tuning in all over the world. We got Erik from New York. We got Dave saying, hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. And those in the U.S., happy day before the 4th. And we got Kendall G saying hello from Denver. We got Pernell saying hello from Denmark. So we got Europe in the house.
Richard, my good friend Richard O'Keefe.
Yeah, there's Richard saying bonjour.
So Richard
Yep.
he is the one person that's been to most of, not most because I did over 10 workshops, but he's been four of my workshop, and he was at Scott's workshop in Paris.
Oh, cool.
And so he's, I would say, my biggest fan.
Right, and then we
Hey,
got
Richard.
T-Bone saying greeting from SoCal. So we got people all over the world tuning in, even though Facebook is acting up on us.
That's
So,
cool.
But yeah, so anyways, so back to the story. So, you've got, you started out in 2004. So speaking so you start with photography, you get into photography and all that. One of the things when you start out, and I think there's a lot of people watching who are like, you know what, I like photography, but they want to get into making money with it.
Right.
Where did you start?
So I'll be honest, the first thing I ever did to try making money with photography was stock photography. The first attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Fotolia, before it got bought by Adobe, existed. It was called Fotolia. And I put up about, I want to say like 50 photos up there. And I was making about $200 a month. And I did a lot of research. And so that's 2008. Back then, apparently you needed about 1,000 photo approved by Fotolia to make about $1,000 per month. So I figured, if you want to make any decent money, you need, and they were pretty rough on the approval. It's not like any photo can be put up there, So it has to be really a business. It was not for me, so I sort of gave it up. And I said, okay, how can I start making money? And I used to be in the hotel business back then. My main job was VP sales of a company selling websites to hotels.
Okay.
That my brother had created, an amazing company. And I was his main, I was a VP sale. And so I started just for fun. Actually, I didn't even start. One hotel guy saw my Paris work and said, I'm opening up in a hotel. It was called the Hotel Hidden, and it was on the Champs-Élysées. And he said it's a 4-star hotel on the concept of organic, like it's organic wood, everything is organic,
yes.
like the tissue used for the beds are organic, whatever. And it was like very raw nature. And they said, we want to make a contest with 5 photographers. The one who does the best photo of that one room will get the whole deal, and the whole deal was $5,000. And I said, I'll play the game. And I remember Photomatics came out back then, and I did an HDR of the room, which nobody did. They were all shooting on film back then. And I did an okay HDR, not a crazy HDR. And I won, like hands down. It was like they had never seen HDR in their life.
Yeah.
I got the $5,000, shot the hotel, but he was such a celebrity, this guy, that I got 10 hotels calling me saying, can you shoot my hotel with that technique? And that's how I started naturally in real estate, and I did, so for 5 years, I shot over 200 hotels. First part-time, this is some of my photos of my early days. But you can't show it. It's on Serge Ramelli Photos /interior.
I'll bring it up.
Serge Ramelli Photos. And so I did that from 2008 to 2013, shoot about 200 hotels. And it was not amazing money, but I did good with it. I was really happy, and I actually in May 2010 quit my job, and I was covering my expenses with it. I had a very high, a lot of expenses back then because I had 4 young kids, a big house, and so I needed a lot of money. So it was good money. I mean, if you're single or if you're in your 20s, it's great money. For me, it was a little tight. But I find that here's the deal. I wanted to just do photography all day. I didn't care if it was interior design. I did not care. I just wanted to be behind a camera. And so, I love sales, but I've been doing it for 20 years. I wanted to just do something artistic. So that's what I did for 5 years. And so, and then eventually, then I started doing my own expo. So because I knew hotels, I would call them up, says I would like to sell fine art prints. So I would have an evening into a hotel, get all, do my own prints. I found a guy became a good friend. He was doing all my prints, and we would sell photos. It was not great. It exploded when I got into galleries, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it was okay, So I sold on my own, and that's how I started making money with photography. So first this, and then fine art.
So let me ask you, I know one of the things that you talked about was the hotels, but one of the stories I remember talking to you about when we first met in Paris, and we were talking about, hey, how'd you get into this? How you growing your business and all that. you had talked specifically about actually targeting hotels to sell them prints for all their renovations.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about like how you got into that.
So, well, it's less scalable, I would say, because I really knew these people,
Yes.
But what I did, and I think it's like, I was watching, I don't know if you know Erik's work on SpaceX. It's unbelievable. I was like so much into it earlier. So what you've done with SpaceX, I've done with Paris, meaning I shot Paris for 5 years. I had, honestly, back in 2010, I don't think any photographer had such a collection of all the area of Paris, all the monuments like I had. Up to today.
I would agree. I would agree, definitely.
I was shooting every night.
And
for
you
6
had
years.
you had the awesome light shots. There's so many shots of Paris. But you would go out and find the awesome light.
Yeah, I would only shoot. I had,
Yes.
I was driving around with my scooter after work. I had a Manfrotto tripod. I had a Canon 5D Mark II then. So I was doing short movies, and I was just taking photos of Paris. And so.
And here's some of his Paris stuff. You want to bring it up?
And a few I took with Scott also. It was funny. I just remembered. And so the thing is, what I did is. I went to see. What happened is this: I was trying to find a way to stop being a VP salesman to get into fine art photography, and my brother at the time was trying to sell the company and was going to give me a lot of money if he does sell the company, so I could turn that over. And honestly, I waited about 2.5 years because they were selling, and then it didn't happen. And one day I remember he came to me, actually his business partner came and says, we're never going to sell. So do what you have to do, but I'm sorry. But, and it was, they really wanted to sell. They really wanted to help me, but it just didn't happen. So I did something crazy. I don't know if that's scalable, but I'll tell you the story. Yeah. I went to see one guy who was just renovating a hotel. He had 40 rooms. And then I said, I have this collection about Paris. Would you buy, I'll make a really nice print, very big print for $1,000 per room. That was 40,000 euros. And he's, in France, you get a lot of tax write-off if you buy art. So he knew about that. He says, well, give me a couple of days, 2 days after, he calls me up and says, you know what? And that's what, before I met you, I told you the story.
Yeah.
He says, I have 2 hotels. Why don't we do both hotels? I'll buy you 84,000 euros. That's like $100,000 worth.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in the street, I was crying because it was not funny for me to resign from my job and start my photographic business, and that's that. And I resigned May 2010, and voila, and we met a few months after.
Yeah. So, and that's really honestly, but what you did to land that before you started selling prints, and I think that's where I want to get to after we come back from break is. You did the work before you started selling prints into doing something very important, and we'll get to that right after the break.
Yes.
And
if you're using Lightroom and you're not using metadata, if you haven't mastered using the metadata panels, you have to watch this class, because otherwise you're missing out. Well, it's helped me because people have found my images. And because of the metadata that's embedded in it, I've actually been contacted and paid for work because they found the image and they wanted more of them. Everyone looking at your photos, they're wondering where you took your photos. There's an entire module of Lightroom dedicated to this. I'm going to show you how to geotag your photos. When you go to search your own images in the cloud or in Lightroom on the desktop, it will find them based on the Adobe Sensei artificial intelligence technology. You'll learn more about that so that you can spend time doing other things that are more beneficial. Come join me along the journey of metadata in my latest class on Kelby One. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't.
When you need a tripod that is compact, that is portable enough to take with you anywhere, one that is adaptable to any situation, that will prove versatile enough for any shoot, and is compatible with your other gear, giving you freedom to create your own perspective. Look no further. Platypod Ultra does it all. Visit platypod.com For more info,
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by B&H Photo, the professional source since 1973.
All right.
We are back. And yeah, so when we were talking about at the break, right before the break, we were talking about you selling the prints to the hotels,
Right.
and then coming to you for Paris. That they really wanted, iconic shots of Paris. But I think before you get into selling your prints, I think one of the things we talked about earlier that I think is very important for people to understand or realize is that, I remember we met about a year after that, after
Right.
you'd landed that job, and when we were doing research, actually what it was is I was producing the class. We were filming a couple classes. When we were looking at who do we go to in Paris for doing awesome locations, architecture, who knows this city, who knows how to photograph this city.
Right.
You were on the name of the short list of people in that city. And I think that's one of the things that people, if you're going to get into selling your prints or even want to get into business even further, how do you get on that short list of whatever you're deciding to do? So really, before you went and actually did that, you had a library of shots of Paris that were the best shots that you weren't getting paid to do.
No, and it's 5 years of I was doing all the class NAPPS to offer with KLB1, basically. That was my main sort of knowledge. So I was watching the class every night, and I was shooting the next day, watching a class, shooting the next day for 5 years straight.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was very...
And then at the same time, driving your moped over to the spot to try to get that shot.
Well, the way I used to say is Paris being so amazing, I looked at the clouds first and said, oh, that's the Eiffel Tower, or that's, Latin Quarter, or that's... So I would look at the light, and many times I went to shoot Notre Dame and ended up shooting something else because
the light's better.
The light's better. So that's the good thing about Paris is, you have a lot of things to shoot. But I would only shoot in sunrise, sunsets, or heavy storm, or it had to have some crazy light. Otherwise, I didn't pull out my camera. But doing it over 5 years I became one of this niche, just like you're becoming on SpaceX the guy, And I think it's important to pick a niche and to learn. Like I say to people, on KLB1, whatever training you want to do, but KLB1 is perfect. Just watch at least 10 minutes of videos per day and then go and shoot. I find even today that if I don't watch tutorials, if I don't go on KLB1 or, and I don't watch stuff, and I'm serious about this, I do the same kind of photography. And then, I watch a YouTube video, I watch a KLB1 class, and I'm going to try that.
Yeah, you got tons of classes now on KLB1 talking about this stuff.
Exactly. Check out all my classes on KLB1. They're amazing.
Shameless plug. So anyways, but yeah, no, that's what you're really getting down to, so you get down to where you've got that, you've sold your work. How do you get to the point though, where you can scale this beyond that?
Well, okay. I was just telling Erik earlier, I get about 4 to 5 emails per day of people wanting me to review the Instagram feed. That's the most question I get all the time. Can you check out my Instagram feed and tell me honestly where I'm standing at? And 99.9% of the time, I think it happened to me twice last year. So listen up, because it's not, it's 99%. I find people have feed with like 3-4 awesome photos, 10 average, and also the feed is not harmonious. It's like one black and white, one coffee there at Starbucks, an amazing landscape, 2 amazing landscape, 4 average photos. And it's like, for me to post a photo on Instagram, I sometimes look at 20 or 30 photos before I decide what I'm going to put up, because I know it's my brand. It's who I am. Yeah. And so I'm very picky about what I post and even more on my website. Scott Legendly, and that's what I learned from Scott. He has this 20 photo deal where per section on ScottKelbyPhotos.com, whatever his name website is, he only adds one photo. Like if he has to add one photo, he takes one out. Yep. And I think that's a great example. And I do the same thing on this website, because the thing is, so again, I know I told that story before, but I think it's so relevant. In 2014, I sold a photo to Nike, which is this photo here. If you go to I want to show you. It's a funny story because I literally
Is it in USA?
USA, my
Yeah,
first
so
day
it's on my screen.
my first day in Los Angeles. I lived there for 4.5 years, but the first day I'm in the city. You passed it. That's the one.
Yes.
So the first day, Calvin, my buddy, says, meet me up at the observatory, and I'm trying to park my car, and I see this crazy sunset, and I literally go out of the car and take that photo. 2 weeks after, Nike contacts me, and it was because it was summer. They were doing it was called the Fuel Summer of Nike, and they give me $2,500 to use a small JPEG for 2 weeks, so that was kind of okay. It was great. I mean, $2,500 for a small JPEG. It's
absolutely.
Money. But what was amazing is that I spoke to the buyer at Nike and I said, why did you pick me? He says, I'll tell you why. Because on your website, 1, you don't have too much photos. 2, all of them are spectacular. That's by the way, that's a UFO shot. Check this out. You go down, you're a specialist. Check this out. Go down here. This one.
Yeah.
I was shooting in Joshua Tree Park and I saw this. I didn't even see it. I have no idea what that is. And even like a NASA group looked at it. It was like they couldn't tell what it was. And when they checked out, there was no missile launch. It was really weird. Anyway, back to my story. And so the Nike guy was telling me, because you have so little photos and because all of them looks professional, that's how we can tell. Every time I go on a website, I see 5 amazing photos. There's just too many photos. 20 average. I mean, honestly, I consider if you post 2 average photos on your Instagram feed, you kill your Instagram feed. That's like you kill a brand like Nike working with you.
Yep.
I mean, just look at the big guys: Max Payne, Erik Almas, Joel Grimes, Erik Kuna. I mean, just look at the big guys. Look at their feed.
I don't know about that, but I gotcha.
You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, if you look through here, I just counted in that one portfolio, you had 22 images. I think in this one you have 20.
Yeah. I'm not that precise. Well,
you're pretty precise though, because a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, I'll get my images down," and then you go to their website and they got 50 images.
Yeah.
In each portfolio, and that's where when you get down to it, is you really have to You have to take that to heart. There is a thing of, if you want to start selling and making money with your prints, you can't just put up. I don't know how many people that I see that are selling. And I think this is a disease with SmugMug, because what SmugMug allows you to do is just turn on a button that says sell your prints.
Yeah.
So then what people do is every photo they post ever to their SmugMug portfolio has a buy button next to it.
That's the best way to not sell any prints.
Yes.
And the people who make that biggest mistake I find is wedding photographers. I'll tell you why. I've seen many wedding photographers' website where they shot this wedding, and instead of posting the 2 most iconic shots, they post like 50 photos of the wedding. But here's the problem. I'm looking for a wedding photographer, and if I see just one photo I don't like, I'm not going to hire this guy because I don't like that one photo. And I looked, there was a website, it was called the 10 top best wedding photographer on the planet. And every one of them had so little photos, but every photo was spectacular. You would just give, they would ask for $50,000. You said, who do I send?
Where do we sign? Yeah, exactly.
And so if there's only one thing I can teach you today, which is please, 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 vet your Instagram, vet your portfolio, edit it. Just make sure you post your best work and you will get job. That's the first requirement to sell. Even fine art prints. I mean, if I'm looking for SpecX photo and I see your website, if I just see like 4 photos, which is not like rockets launch, I'm like, this is,
what that guy does. Doesn't do this.
He got lucky over a weekend.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I totally agree and totally think that this is something that is infectious, that definitely is out there where people are just like throwing. We have to be very mindful as photographers, especially if you want to get to the point of making money with photography, is you have to do a good job about editing your own photos and showing people only what is the best stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I can tell, and this is not a joke, this is how precise it is. I can tell in less than 2 seconds, someone shows me his Instagram feed, I can tell if he's a professional making money with his job somehow or not in less than 2 seconds by looking at his Instagram feed. Just because and it's like, I know some people on Instagram killing it, I mean, they're getting deals with brand and ads and teaching and selling presets, and it just goes on and on. The way they monetize their art is unbelievable, but it's really a black and white situation.
So that's where we're at. We're going to take a break here in just a second right now, but that's where we're at. So we're talking about like that. you started just really seriously 9 years ago.
Right.
You know, really the beginning, this section was about you really culled down your work to the essential stuff, and people went, I know you for Paris. Now they're going, I know you for shooting the US. I know you for shooting interiors. They're coming to you for that. Now when we come back for break, what I want to talk about is taking that things like Instagram. How do you grow that Instagram? How do you grow your website traffic to where you can get more people getting in front of your work so you can get hired?
Right.
So when we get back, I want to talk about that. And we'll be back in just a few minutes with Serge Ramelli talking about how to make money with your photography. And there's the jib. We're really bouncing here.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Canon.
Make sure you don't miss any episodes of The Grid by subscribing to Apple's podcast app or iTunes. It's free, and we even have a special audio-only version, too. So sign up today.
All right. Well, we're back. And I just have to comment, like, the reason we're having a ping pong here in the studio, it's just because we got Christina's working the jib and the comment. She's going back and forth. So it's kind of, it's been a challenge here. So, but we're working on it. And, but yeah, so we were talking about before the break, we really wanted to get down to getting your photos down to the essentials, only showing your best work, only selling your best work.
Right.
Right. But okay, so I'm there. I got this great body of work. And that's one of the comments that we had is, how do you know what to charge? All right. Before you know what to charge, like, how do you know that you're ready to grow? Like, what do you do to grow and make that catalyst? Because one of the reasons that you can charge more is you've got you got more followers, you've got more people asking for your work. How do you get to that point? Because you're at that point where you got the great photos, people know you for your city and all that. So how do you grow?
So to answer how to know what to charge. So when I started, so completely arbitrarily, what I did is I created really large prints on a very nice paper, with printed with metal, it was like, how do you say, glued on metal.
Yeah.
With like a nice frame behind it. it would cost me about 250 euros to produce, and I would sell it for 1,000. I just decided this way, and that's when I sold, I sold 150,000 euros of it that way. So when I sold on my own, later on I got into galleries, and it's a whole different deal. Real estate, I had a very weird way to charge at first, which I don't. I was charging by the hour, but it was very awkward because I got better and better at doing it over the years. And sometimes I was so fast that I was like, it's not worth the money. So, I didn't want to take my time on purpose. So I ended up basically selling 100 euros per photo, what I call approved photos. So I would go and shoot like 50 to 70 photos and retouch them really well. So much that the customer said, "Oh, I want this one. I want this one. I want this one." It was $100, $100, $120, roughly each. And that's what I teach people to do is to. So when you start off, you can go as low as $50. I mean, it depends what country, but USA, Europe, I would say $50 per approved photo. So the customer only buys what he really wants to have, and that's when you do interior design. And as you get more notoriety, go to 100. I know people that goes to 200 a photo, but that's really high end. And and
you're talking that's
interior design, like when I just giving the file, giving the high res file or something.
Yes.
For fine art, I started at 1,000 because I was making that one specific print. I did not want to do small prints because it's just hell to to deal with. And then 2012, I got this incredible miracle happen where I got back-to-back cover coffee table books deals. I've now done 6. Plus, I've got over 80 photos in the biggest art network galleries in the world. They are putting up 20 new galleries worldwide. Yellowcorner.com.
Yeah.
They have 12 in Paris. It's just a blessing.
Very cool.
So I only get 7 to 8% of the sales, but they sell so much. It's really great. It's way more money than I ever made. It's you're talking 220 salesmen sending you photos at all time. And, they have huge galleries. Like in the USA, they're only in New Jersey, Chicago. And
that's very scalable.
Yes,
because then you got somebody else working for you.
Yeah, and the way they do it is it's not signed edition. And it's, one is an open edition, so small one, $79. And then they have like a $300 one, which is 500 copies, not signed, just arbitrarily 500 copies. And then they have the biggest edition, which is 200 copies. And then when it's done, it's done. And then we do sometimes like some special series and stuff. And I've sold out like over 30 series with them. It's crazy. Like the volume of sales are amazing. And
okay. Well. So when you're getting to that point where you're trying to scale or get to that, because you obviously didn't just walk in and somebody said, "Here, I'm gonna go produce a coffee table book," or we want to put you in a gallery. How did you get to that point where they were actually calling you?
So that's a funny story. I had a friend who was in the years 2000 was a huge celebrity in New York. He was selling like $20,000 a print, and he was actually selling it. I remember, I think there was a year he made like $500,000 in prints in 2007 when I was just starting. So he was kind of like my god. And so they reached out to him saying, because they get over 200 photographers emailing every day. We want to, can I be in your galleries? 200 per day. So it's kind of hard to get in, I'll be honest with you. Anyways, but here's the story. They tried to get him and he refuses. No, there's no way I'm selling only $20,000 a photo. There's no way I'm going to sell my work for, $1,000 or $300 or because they have these different prices, And he says, "Oh, you should contact them. The owner's name is," and he gave me the name of the owner. And I called reception. I managed to get the owner's name, and I sent him an email with my Paris staff. And he said he answered after a week. Says, "Oh, okay. Do you have some more things to show me?" And I sent him a couple of things. I remember, and he didn't take my photos. One day, there was a big snowstorm in Paris, and I shot Paris all night. I got the best snow Paris photo ever of all time. I've never seen any. It was so crazy. It was one of the biggest snowstorm, and I was up all night shooting.
Yeah.
I sent it to him, and he said, "Yeah, it's kind of cool." And anyways, and then he just never answered. A year goes by, and that same friend who said, "Oh, did you ever work with Yellow Corner?" And I said, "No." I said, I just passed 70,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I looked at Yellow Corner only had 3,000 followers on YouTube. So I sent him an email saying, "Oh, I just passed 70,000 followers on YouTube. I saw you only 3,000. We should work together." And I'm not kidding you. I send the email, my phone rings about 20 seconds later, and it was the owner that I spoke to him for the first time. We met. And then it's a long story, but then a month after that, I was in all the galleries with 30 photos, and I had a 2-book deal. And
Cool.
but he only took me because I was growing up on social media and because I had this niche photography. That's the only reason he took me. You know, they only take photographers with big social media following.
So they want a big following, and they want a niche.
They want you to use their. I repost that story.
Absolutely.
I have 1 million followers in all social media combined.
Yep.
And so I do a lot of work to get people to go in the galleries and buy the photos. You know.
So there's some good questions coming in. One of us, Nina. Nina's asking, do you print your own photos or do you use a print service?
So I used a print service, but it was like a friend who had a company printing photos. It was like one guy. But in the US, I've done a few prints for a few friends, and I use Bay Photo, which I love.
Okay, yeah.
In San Francisco.
That's who I use.
And I do only metal. Now, when I do, like, sometimes I've had some people from Google wanting to buy some photos, and I only do private collections, which is like pretty expensive metal prints with like very nice framing. And it's one.
And I tell the people the same thing with my photos, because the rocket photos look really good on metal.
Oh my God.
Just like your photos look really, because everything pops.
Metal print is the best.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in love with metal prints.
Yeah.
And I do like this. They have the really nice framing. It's like $540 with the framing. So you have to sell it for quite some money.
So Gail's asking too, and this is a good question because this is actually one that I had right here that I was about to ask. Is similar. Do you sell your prints? Did you sell your prints online in the beginning or just in galleries?
Just no, I did my own expo. I never sold anything online except through yellowcorner.com, which sells a lot for me.
So you've never sold anything online?
No, never.
Okay.
I never did. I hesitated. Like before I got the deal, I was about to do a SmugMug website like you.
Yeah, because that's I think you were probably too even at that time. Because it isn't until the last few years that it's become really easy to sell your work online.
Yeah, back then there was only SmugMug doing it, and it was not that straightforward.
Yeah, now you can actually select the lab you want to use.
Yeah,
who you wanted to send to. If you people buy it in Europe, you can send it to a different lab. I mean, it's crazy. So it is definitely to that point, and that's where I use SmugMug for that. It's just so easy. You can set the prices. You can do all that.
Oh
stuff.
yeah, SmugMug is amazing to sell online photography. Yeah. And this just because back in that day, now that I have Yellow Corner, I'm not even interested in trying to do it myself. I just
especially if you got a sales force working for you. I mean,
so I have no use for it.
Because one of the hardest things with selling your prints, I mean, it's like anything in business. It's the marketing. It's the advertising. It's the sales. It's not the. I mean, I see people that have awesome photos all day long, and that's kind of like Peter's question here. He's asking, is it possible to make money out of photography as a hobby without turning it into a business?
100%. I have a very good friend of mine called Jacob Bors. He lives in the Isle of Skye, and he is a community manager for 3-4-star hotels. Loves his work, but makes $20,000 a year selling fun art prints and doing a little bit of interior design photography here and there. You know, and he's got like a whole website. That's my Yellow Corner gallery, or you can buy.
Yeah, so you can definitely get to the point where you can sell enough work. I mean, it's not going to be like you're going to quit your full-time gig, but it's just going to, I think really what it comes down to with a lot of photographers, I know with me, it's like we have that gear acquisition syndrome where we're always wanting a new piece of gear. We're always wanting a new computer. We're always wanting a new, that new software, that new something, and you just need to support the habit almost.
Yeah, I mean, because with the idea of software, you have this idea that, a new gear will get you to the next level, which is true in a way. But funny thing is, the one photo that I sold for the most amount of money, 4,000 euros, which was just one print, was shot with the Canon 5D Mark II. No, was shot with the Canon T2i from 2004. A 12 million pixel camera, super noisy. And so that's kind of weird.
No, I just had that happen to me. I shot with a camera. It's a Canon 1D. The Canon 1D. There was nothing.
Yeah, I know the Canon 1D.
4.4 megapixels. And I had somebody just license a photo for that.
That's crazy.
So yeah.
Yeah, but it's my best selling. It's like my number one. And it was shot with a Canon T2i from 2004. It's crazy.
There you go.
Because sometimes you get it was like a very specific light and stuff. So
we do have to take our a final break here. But when we come back, we have our contest. I want to wrap it up with talking a little bit more about the getting into the business of it, and then also a couple questions in from the audience.
Awesome.
All right, we'll be back in just a second with Serge.
Hi folks, Scott Kelby here. I want to tell you about an email I got, an angry email. So you know it's angry because the subject line says, Mr. Kelby. First, anytime somebody calls me Mr. Kelby, you know you're in trouble. Mr. Kelby, I'm so mad at you. That's what the subject line was. I'm like, oh great. So I go read it and he's like, Mr. Kelby, I saw your class on photo books and I went and made a photo book and I'm just so upset because now I've made 34 photo books and you've got me hooked on these. And I went, whew. But that's how it is with photo books. I mean, think about this. All right, we have the shooting part, which is very creative, right? And then we have the editing part, which can be fun and creative. When you start making photo books, you're adding a third leg to this chair. Now you've got this other thing where you're the photo editor. You decide which photos make the book, how big they are, what goes on the left, what goes on the right. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. And Adobe made some changes. Now you can lay out pages any way you want. You can just literally, it's like free transform. You can just make the photo whatever size you want. You can have multiple photos. They can overlap one another. You can have grids of 9, 15. You don't have to have a grid at all. You can just design it. I wanted to do a class that takes you from beginning to end, and I'm going to show you how to make it so fast that you'll be able to focus on just the fun. And when you hand somebody that photo book and they get it in their hands and they're going to be like, you did this? This is your photography? They're going to be blown away. You're going to be blown away. You're going to have a great, great time doing it. And the whole thing is self-contained right here in Lightroom Classic. If you want to learn a whole bunch about doing photo books and you'll be able to follow along right with me and do your photo book right that same time, go watch my class. It's called Creating Beautiful Photo Books in Lightroom Classic, and it's exclusively at Kelby One.
Hi everyone, Christy from Shark Pixel here, and I'm really thrilled to be talking to you about a completely new subject in this next class. It's all about Perfectly Clear Complete. It's kind of like a smart image processing program that applies presets to your photos. You can then take that preset and apply it to hundreds or thousands of images, all by batch processing through Perfectly Clear software. It does all the face detection points for you. You do not have to go in and put any specific points anywhere on the image. So when I say you can literally click one button and apply almost 15 beautifying corrections to a face in your image, I am not lying. So you guys definitely need to check out my new class so that you can see how it's done exactly, only on kelby1.com.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the world's most compact tripod base.
All right, well, we're back and we're talking about selling your work and getting your work sold.
Exactly.
We got a bunch of questions coming in, so I want to get to them before it gets too late and we run out of time. But Shelly's asking, how do you get a gallery show to sell your work?
Well, that was the story I was telling you.
Yeah, but how would you say if somebody was going about it nowadays, not your story, how would you go about it nowadays?
Very simple. First, I would train, and take photos until I think I have a body of work that's niche enough. You know, like if you're all over the place, it's kind of hard. Like I do cities, you know, and the biggest cities, New York, Paris, Los Angeles, London.
Well, and that's a key with a gallery. I mean, so we have a member gallery that we do 4 times a year. I mean, you've seen it over there.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, right? We have people that submit all the time. You know, thousands of people submit. And the one thing, if you're trying to get into a gallery, is like you said, you need your body of work to say something.
Yeah.
It needs to have a consistent kind of theme or a feel or a processing look. There has to be something consistent about it that people go. I go to Serge. Like Serge, if you look at Serge's work, you've almost created. There was a genre. So we had landscapes, but you've almost created the cityscape genre.
100%.
Right?
That's only my thing.
That's the thing, is then you're known for, if I want to go learn cityscapes, if I want to know how to shoot cityscapes, I go to Serge.
Yeah. I mean, not to brag, but I think there's less than 5 photographers on the planet that did over 6 books on 6 major cities.
Yeah.
So, I'm in that small list, which is so, whenever a big magazine is doing something about cityscapes, I get called. And I'm sure he's going to get a call for SpaceX. Oh my God, you got to check out Erik Kuna's work on SpaceX.
Well,
amazing.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So Kendall is asking, I know you said you don't sell your photos online, but had you ever thought about putting your photos on a stock agency? Well, we talked about that earlier.
I started by that,
yeah.
but I took them out now because I have this deal with the major galleries. You can. It's one. I have a friend who does.
So I think for you, probably what it is determining which one's going to return you a better investment, right? Yeah. So you're probably making enough off of the exclusive deal with the gallery that you're going, I'm not going to sell them on stock.
Yeah, before I can do that much amount of money on stocks, it requires a lot of work.
But if you're not in a gallery, if you don't have that deal yet, then definitely stock would be a way to go, right?
I have a friend who got this amazing shot of SpaceX in LA. He licensed his time lapse. He does only time lapse.
Yep.
Erik time lapse. Hello, Erik. And he makes great money.
Yeah, and it's an awesome time lapse too.
Yeah, it's an awesome. It went viral. He gained 40,000 followers on Instagram in one night.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It was the best time lapse of the shot in LA. It got I want to say 42 million views. I mean, it was crazy. Elon Musk retweeted.
Yeah.
It was everywhere. And
it was awesome.
So he licensed his work on stock footage, and he makes his living. It covers all his life, just the time lapse. So, and that's kind of a stock photography thing.
Okay, cool. So Diane's asking, do you use Bay Photo for metal also?
I use Bay Photo I only do metal. That's
so I did only metal and only Bay Photo.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, maybe there's other people out there.
They were also asking about MPix. I know MPix does them as well.
So I've done MPix in the past for print, and I love MPix. They have a 24 turnaround and all that good stuff. I'm sure they're immediate print. I just haven't tried.
Yeah.
And you know how it goes. When you're happy with one company.
Exactly. It's why change? I know the print's going to work
there,
and people aren't going to email you saying this print's terrible.
Although I'll give you a trick with Bay Photo and MPix. So what I do is they have an option where they can control the colors to make sure it's good. I mean, before you do a $540 print, I don't do that because I've been unhappy with that. I take the smallest size they have, I print it, they send it to me. It's always too dark. I light it up and then I do the big print.
Okay.
So because it's an arbitrary thing. So whenever I always do that with Yellow Corner is different because they have an amazing printing facilities but my books, for example, when I did my Venice books, they printed a book and they choose the luminosity. You see, the problem is when you print, because you're printing on paper and it's not backlit, it's always darker. So you really have to boost 20%, 25%. But you don't know if it's 18% or 25%. So actually in Lightroom, there's a slider on print. And that's how I do it. I just add a little more sharpening, add a little more thing, and I re-export it as a TIFF 16-bit using that slider. And that's how I give it to Yellow Corner.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's good to know. Good to know. Yeah, and that's always because prints always come out a little darker than you think they're going to.
Always. That's me on Yellow Corner.
Yeah. So Des asking, for your hotel room photography, did you contact them via social media initially, or did you show up in person?
So I have this trick. I got to tell a story. I think I told you before, but it is really an amazing story. I had this guy, and it's a really true story. I had this guy. He was a film photographer, and he wanted. And
yes, I've heard this one. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, this is a good one
because it will tell you how to start the business. Yeah. I trained him on how to do interior design. He was working as a full-time photographer in our web agency with my brother. And then he decided to be self-employed and quit. And so he went on. And then 6 months later, he calls me up and says, I have a new apartment. Would you sign, would you be the guarantee in case I don't pay? You will have to pay, but you won't have to worry. You won't have to
we
pay.
call it a co-signer here in America.
So I co-signed his apartment. And 3 months after I co-signed, I get a call from the landlord that he's not paying his rent. And I have to pay for him. And and he's a great interior design photographer. And I said, what are you doing? I'm not going to pay your rent. And then he said, well, it's hard to find jobs. And how do I, do I go through social media to contact them? How do I get, how do you do to get, because we were providing him with the customers before. Yeah. He didn't have to do all that. So I said, you know what? I'll make a game with you. You contact what I used to do is, because what I was doing is I was calling the hotels and he was doing the photos. And so I would call 40 hotels in 4 hours to speak to about 10 managers. And as the 10 managers, I would get 2 meetings. And as 2 meetings, I would make 1 sale. So I knew 4 hours of phone calls would give me 1 sale for a website. And there was, of course, photos with it. So I said, I'll make a game with you. You call 100 hotels in Paris. And you ask them, do you have any rooms that is renovated? Because he had a great website already. And, and just tell them, I'm going to make so good photos that your online sales are going to explode, because we have a lot of stories, and it's a true story. And I think it's still the case today. You have some hotels that have really bad photos. Go to booking.com and check out the quality.
Oh, yeah.
If they would change, if you see a hotel that has got bad photos, if you would change.
It's a good way of making money.
You
would
go
to booking.com.
Go to Booking. You would 4x their. So anyways, so I said, call 100 hotels. And he said, you know what? I don't like calls. I don't like phoning. I'm going to walk into 100 hotels. I said,
yeah, go for it.
Go for it. He did that. That gave him, because he was really talented, so much business that he never had to do it again. This was 7 years ago. He now just got a deal where he has to shoot 2,000 hotels.
Yeah, there's one right there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one. That
like,
first one right there. I know that's a better shot.
Yeah.
There's a better shot.
Yeah, whoever lives in Tampa, contact the University Inn, and you can say, watch class here on how to do interior design photography, and look at that. You can do so much better. And you see all the photos you see there is what we call the master photo. It's the one photo that's going to give them business. And when you take like an amazing sunset photo and you put it there, it just 5x their bookings. And they don't know about this. It's crazy.
Yep.
And out of what you just showed, there's only like 2 or 3 photos I thought was really professional.
Yep.
It's still a huge business. I have a friend right now here in Florida.
Huge.
Who's making $20,000 a month just shooting hotels. It's crazy. And I have another friend in LA. He's making $30,000 a month just shooting not hotels, but he does real estate. But he only has like 6 customers, which are agencies, and every apartment or everything they have for sale, they give it to him. So the trick is, whether it's real estate agency, whether it's hotels, all it takes is 100 phone calls or 100 walk-ins. There's this amazing, and there's something, I'll give you like one last trick. It only works in the USA, but USA has something amazing for real estate. It's called open houses. If you go on Trulia.com or Zillow.com and you look for the next open houses in your area, you'll see there's like over 200 open houses in any given town in the USA. You walk in there with an iPad and it says, hi, this is what I do. I've been a Kelby One member for 2 years. I master Lightroom and Photoshop like nobody. Here's my body of work. This is what I can do for you. You walk into 10 open houses on a one Saturday, I promise you sign up one agency. One agency is going to, getting 5 to 10 houses per month, and you got work for life. And so this guy who makes $30,000 a month doing real estate, that's how he started. He went into I think it took him like 4 weekends.
Well, that's the thing, is he built to that level, but the way he went about it was starting this way.
Yeah,
yes.
The first year, I think he made $5,000 a month. And at first he was shooting like $100 a flat, but he was shooting 8 per day. They had like these condos, and it was just like shooting all the. Yep. And so, what I mean by that, the problem is most photographers. I mean, once you have trained and because I see some amazing photographers out there not making money. Don't get me wrong. It's not. I also see amazing photographers don't make money because they didn't vet their feed or their website. They are good, but nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
And so, but when you're good, you got a good website. The next thing is, if you want to start making money, is really, you can do the same thing with galleries. I have a saying that there is no bad marketing plans. I mean, there are bad ones, but the worst is no marketing plans. Anything, you can walk in, you can talk, you can call, whatever you do it. The wrong thing to do is nothing. And that's what most photographers end up doing, is nothing.
Well, so like Kathy's asking, a few people asked to purchase one of my Milky Way images, and I don't know where to begin. I mean, I would just contact them and say, hey, what can I do, right? I'd love to send you a print, Yeah,
go on Smugmug and put it up on Smugmug and do your margin and just say, send
hey,
them the
here's
link.
the link.
Yeah.
I'd love to sell you a print.
I didn't have that technology back then. I did not, so.
And
that's a good question. Next, Snap Ninja.
Yeah, Snap Ninja saying, how do you know that you're ready to sell your photos online?
Okay, you are ready to sell photo online when you know you have a consistent body of work, meaning you can come out. Like I see your work, you see mine. I know, it took me 5 years, but at one point I knew that I could just nail it. I every photo I was putting out had, great comments. I didn't have any technical question. I was not, did I shoot this at 400 ISO? I knew my camera. I knew I was
comfortable with everything you're doing.
I knew I could, this is the 6 books I've published.
Yeah.
I have, I can pour out you send me in any town on this planet and you give me 2 weeks and I'll make a book like this, but I'll be shooting 9 hours per day. I'll do black and white if there's no good sunset. Yep. I'll just pull it off because I know how to do it, and it's just, there is a technicity, but where you are, and you know how you know it is because if you have always kind of the same amount of likes on your Instagram and every photo hits, like for me, it's between 2,000 and 3,000 likes. 90% of my photo gets between 2,000 and 3,000. Because I know I'm hitting it.
Yep.
And just like your body of work I saw on SpaceX was like every photo. Check out erikkuna.com. Every photo was like nailing it. And that's what I said. I can tell you in less than 2 seconds if somebody's not ready.
Or you got to get a Serge to start promoting you.
Yeah. I'm good at promoting. I was a salesman for 20 years.
Well, anyway, no, I totally agree with what you're saying. And that's where you just have to get to that point where, you're just confident and you trust that I can go do that and it won't be a problem. I'll deliver. I will deliver a product that's good. And that's when like, hey, I'm ready to sell this. I have something that people want. And
that's what I also do workshops. Like, I see a lot of people. I did a workshop in Tuscany just before Scott was in Paris. And I had this guy, and he was making tons of money as an engineer. I think he was making $25,000 a month as an engineer. But he hated it. All he wanted was be a photographer. And he was like, but am I ready or am I not ready? And he was not. Honestly, he was not ready. And because he wasn't consistent. Like, only every photo out of 4 was spectacular. And he was like 3 out of 4 was not good. There was like heavy mistakes. The composition was off, or there was like halos in his photos, or like too heavy dodge and burning. It was something wrong, And so he was not ready. And I'll tell you something, when you're ready. You just know it because the feedback you're getting gave you the certainty.
I get you. But then there's another side of it too. And I think this is another side that we don't talk about. It's what you talked about this. You're only showing your best work. There's times when I'm sure you don't hit, that you go out and you're like, that shot was just okay, right?
Oh my God.
I have it all the time. I mean, I have times when I'll go out, I'll set up a camera. Like with my style or my genre, I'll have to go out, set up a camera, leave it there, wait for it, make sure that the dew doesn't form on it, make sure it fires and triggers and all that. And I'll get the camera back and I'll be like, that wasn't a shot. I didn't even share it. Because it's just not a shot. I failed at that one, but I'm not going to share that one.
100%. I've been here in Florida for 10 days. Every single night, maybe one night I went to shoot Clearwater Beach. Every night. Every single night. I've only posted one photo from one evening that was so spectacular. Mm-hmm. And the 9 out of 10, nobody will ever see these photos.
Which is odd because usually we get spectacular sunsets.
I know, but
here.
I've done it so many times because I always stay in Clearwater. I get it, I've done it so many times that I want it to be really, really spectacular. There is spectacular and there is spectacular. Really, so I was in Paris and I only had 3 photos. I stayed like 2 weeks in Paris. I only posted 3 photos on my Instagram from the entire 2 weeks because they were just not there,
All right, cool.
So I don't hit it every time because sometimes the weather is just bad.
But that's part of it is knowing that you can hit, that you're going to have those photos that pop, but then also knowing when that photo didn't hit, when that photo wasn't the photo to share. It's like, and I know that's something we're always learning. So,
and honestly, if there's 2 sentences you need to learn is keep shooting all the time, keep learning all the time. Watch videos and shoot. That is the only way to progress today in photography. Better than any college you can ever dream about.
All right, well, let's end on that then. That's a good way to end the show. But before we totally wrap up, we got a couple things. We've got you have a workshop, or
I'm trying something new because I do workshop in Paris every year, and I want to try to do a workshop online. It's limited seats and it's already pretty packed. I gave the link. That's the link, it's called the Serge Ramelli Institute of Photography, which is photoserge.com/ the link is not. It's not the right link.
Yeah,
you know what? Just write me at sergeremily@gmail.com. Just my name at gmail.com if you want to get more. So it's one-on-one coaching where I give 35 assignments and I coach the people. but I cannot scale it too much. So if you want to work with me, just write me personally. My personal email is sergeramelli@gmail.com.
Yeah.
No dots, nothing.
Yeah.
That
so
link was not
Serge
good.
Ramelli.
Yeah.
Yep. Gmail.com.
And
Contact you.
I'll send you the right stuff.
So that's the end, and I think that's cool for people that there's a lot of people that can't come out to a workshop.
Yeah,
can't
and it's a
travel
lot
all the way
cheaper.
to
It's a lot cheaper because
Paris,
yeah. And I do workshops every year in Italy and France. People don't like to travel, or people whatever. This is much cheaper. It's online. I want to try this. I'm going to try it with a few students this year, and voila.
Cool. And we also have to give away a couple prizes. So we have our winners of the contest. So we're giving away a Platypod, and we're giving that to Kendall G. You've won a Platypod Ultra.
All right.
Which is awesome. I know.
Yeah.
I've got one with me at all times when I've got a camera, right? So, and then Peter Holdman is winning the landscape book. So if you just contact Christina in the chat, she'll get your information. We'll get that mailed out to you. And then, I know we've talked about it, but just to remind everybody to, for more on you,
photosurge.com. Yeah.
So just go check out PhotoSurge. And then links right there to your Instagram, your Facebook when it's working.
Yeah,
and
when it's working. Now something I started this year. I do 2 videos per week on YouTube, and I've done it for 4 months straight now. Crazy. So follow me on YouTube. Just type Serge Ramelli on YouTube.
Cool. And and then so next week it's going to be a surprise next week.
Next week
Scott,
is a surprise.
I know Scott will not be here, so it'll be a surprise. We'll see what we're going to do. It'll be fun.
All right.
We will see you guys next week on the grid. And thanks, Serge, for coming on.
Thanks
I really
for having me,
appreciate
Erik.
it. And I hope you guys learned some stuff, and check us out next week here on the grid.